Welcome everyone. This is yet another episode of Health and Safety Unplugged, brought to you by Advanced Safety. And today, I am very lucky to be joined by Michael Philpott. Michael, thank you for joining me in today's session.
My pleasure. We're both very lucky.
Yes, indeed. It's a little bit of a
You're
surprise.
busy. You're so busy all the time.
We're both super busy. Or am I actually just really busy at making myself look busy?
Maybe you're busy at making yourself look busy.
Yeah. I think my wife would agree with that. So it's an absolute pleasure to catch up with you once again. The last time we did catch up, surprisingly, is over 2 years ago when we did the 1 in 8 live special. Basically, I put together 8 amazing public speakers who all brought to the table their own unique insights into business leadership, health and safety, building safety, all the way through to your wonderful self, talking about public speaking, winning over audiences.
People.
Yeah, and then...
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I just went back through the archives. It's like, man, it's over 2 years ago. And so, it's long overdue, clearly.
Yeah, well overdue, because this is the only way we're going to catch up.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, let's catch up. It's like, yeah. Let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then we'll catch up.
And I'll stick a camera in front of your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah. I've seen you for 2 years. Here's a camera. Let's talk.
Yay.
Nice.
So
it's good, man.
Yeah, likewise. It's always good to catch up. Yeah. And if it's not in front of a camera, it's usually in a departures lounge or crossing paths in a hallway. So
that's the busy part, right? I see you flying around the place. So I don't think it's just looking busy. I think you are actually busy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll take it.
No, you are actually busy.
Yeah. I'm just about to get busier too. I'm just about to accept some additional work, which is going to be even more flights. But
good busy is good.
Yeah. The last time we caught up, we talked about things like delivering messages with difficult audiences. And I think it's safe to say that health and safety still very much has a bit of a public relations problem. See, I'm getting all nervous there. On the weekends, like over barbecues, or at this time of the year, it's Matariki, so on the beaches in the mornings, catching up with neighbours and friends, and they, it's that inevitable question. Matt, what is it you do again? I do health and safety. Conversation killer, I would love to start off by picking your brains around how do we navigate this conversation killer? How do we create open dialogue with people who may not necessarily see the value in what it is we bring to the table? So that was what I was hoping to kick off with and pick your brains on. Okay,
so good subject. And yeah, I totally get it. So for me, instantly, it's the pre-frame, right? So, and this is for everyone, pre-frames. So when people ask you, what do you do? And you say health and safety. So you don't do health and safety, you do something else. And it's identifying what that thing is at a higher level, which chances are what you actually do is you ensure that people stay alive and get home safely to their family. That's a whole different conversation started right there.
Yeah, I love that.
See, because if you said that to me, I'd be like, sorry, what? Tell me more. But the issue being is that with pre-frames, right, it's like dentist, there are generally 2 responses to that word, that term. For some people, it's an enjoyable experience, and for other people, it's painful and terrifying. Depending on which lens it's looked at through, will determine the outcome of the conversation. So, if you blanket health and safety, people have their preconceived idea of what that means, and from what they've seen in the past, which leads into the subject itself.
It's an area, so yeah, that's really cool. So they're preconditioned, or their previous experiences in this topic is something that we can't control, right? That's outside of our scope of control.
That's correct.
But what we can control is the reference.
And the frame that we create for them to look at it through. The preconceived part, though, is true. So, and that's the bit that we're kind of here to talk about as well, right? It's like resistant audiences, and conversation stoppers. If their previous experience of health and safety, through the delivery of it, through the reception of it, through the whole frame of you have to do this, and I know it's whatever comes after that a facilitator or a trainer will say, that experience is cemented into their brain, so that when you say health and safety, they go in memory back to, right?
Yep.
So that's the trigger for them. And what can we change that individually when we run training? Yes, we can.
Yep.
And through our influence, we can get other people, trainers in the industry, to also maybe think about the long-term impact of belief that they're having on the people that they work with.
I love it. I love it. Or now you're starting to kind of tease out some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, because what that sounds like to me is that once you figure out how to short circuit that the perception of the subject matter, and you short circuit that well, you can then take that message to others. So then you've got a small army of people doing good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Love it. That's so cool.
Advocates, enthusiastic people who have been re-inspired about a subject that is actually really important.
Gosh, all right, what a great way to start.
Launch into it, let's go.
Yeah. I love how you reframed that as well. It's like, we'll start an army. You're like, no, there'll be people that go out and advocate for the cause, Matt. Not here to take over the world just yet. That's so good. Okay, cool. So some of the top tips that you might be able to share with us around how do we short circuit? How do we perhaps avoid having those kind of crunchy moments, those crunchy conversations in the first place? Are there techniques that we can use or things that we can do?
So what kind of conversations? Is in the one where you introduce yourself as to what you're doing? Is it that kind of conversation?
Yeah, that's an important question. A bit of context, right? So yeah, let's say that. Let's say you've been put in front of a group of workers. There may be one or two middle managers in that room, but the majority are, at the coalface.
Yep.
And let's go one step further and say, unfortunately, you've been introduced as here's the health and safety guy that's going to come in and do some amazing stuff, and it was like, oh, groan. How do we tackle that?
So in reverse, you're introduced as. Cool. So you'd start there. So it's the relationship that you create with your host, your organisation, no different to an MC relationship. If you're a speaker and there's an MC, you create a very strong relationship with the MC, and you contact them in advance and you talk to them about what your introduction includes. And you make it very clear, you give them the words to say. Never let someone introduce you in a way that you don't know and haven't discussed what that introduction entails. I say that from my days back training New Zealand Police and in the prisons and all sorts of stuff, when basically someone would introduce you and that person sets you up to win or fail straight away. Well, not so much win or fail, because you can always, you get your audience back using tools and skills, but it's definitely not helpful, right? So you want to have as much control over that communication from the outset with your contact person to set you up to succeed, and that is the pre-frame that person will create for you in your introduction. So from there, we work our way, which is now you've got these people in the room, you've been given a fantastic introduction around all the amazing things and the positive outcomes and the life-changing stuff that health and safety is, because health and safety is not just at work, it's everywhere. All right, so we tie back to the bigger picture to a degree. From there, you're in front of a group of people. You've got these people, you've got the people who have probably been through this repetitiously, they keep seeing it over and over again.
Absolutely.
They may have had someone else deliver it in a way that was not beneficial to them. It was literally what we see, which is here's a whole bunch of stuff, and the pre-frame that they would have given it, depending on what time of the day the health and safety training starts.
Yes. Yeah.
If it's 9 a.m. in the morning or 8:30, or depending on who you're working with, could be earlier. That's good. However, their pre-frame, if it's a full day, would be one of two possibilities, right? There's endless possibilities, but let's go with one of two. Hey everyone, it's so good to see you all here. Now I know that you have done this type of stuff before, and I know that it's relatively mundane and boring, and there's a lot of stuff that we have to get through. But if you bear with me, we'll come out of it alive at the end together. Option one.
Yep. And what you're doing there is I am on the same level as you guys, right? So
that's the problem though.
Yeah. Okay.
So context. As an outdoor guide, we used to walk American students off a 200-foot cliff in the middle of, towards the Alps. And one of the key things is that we knew from experience that if they looked down as they walked around the frame which held their ropes. If they looked down, they would tremble in fear, and their knees would crumple, and they would kind of lock down, and fear would just grab them, right? Because it's a massive drop off to the side. And what we discovered was that if we said to them, "Don't look down," they would look down.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So it takes time to learn things, and over time we discovered that if we said, "Look at me," as we walk them around, "I'm going to walk you around here, look at me," and they would look at me, look you in the eye, right?
Yep.
So oftentimes the concept would be pre-framing is, what do you want people to think in their mind? So if I, meet them and empathize with them that this is going to be a horrible, boring day, then I am essentially saying, don't look down.
Yep.
And I'm getting them to look at the day through a negative lens of, we're all in it together, but we're suffering.
Yes.
And joint suffering doesn't make it any more fun.
You're
right?
still
It's
suffering.
Yeah. For a start, the reframe is not to identify what you don't want people to look at. What do you want them to look at? And it's like, well, here we go. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. We only have a very short period of time together. And I know that there are so many things that we are going to go through, and it's going to be fantastic to have your engagement and interaction. Obviously, I don't hold all of the answers in myself, all of the answers that we need to find out in this room. Our job today is to pull them out and discover them so that we can all learn together.
Yeah, how good's that?
And here's the cool thing. We get morning tea and lunch, and we're going to get afternoon tea as well. That is fantastic. It's pre-frames, right? It's like how we perceive something and how we portray that to other people will manifest in their mind that expected outcome. And we have control over that.
Yeah, that's so good. It's actually, the memories are flooding back of some of the one-on-one coaching I had the opportunity to do with you. Like, again, feels like many moons ago, but it's still fresh in mind because I still am fortunate enough I get to use those techniques even today, where that reframe is so critical. I remember one of the key things you got me to do was to be consciously aware of whenever I was asking the intended audience, I want you to.
Yes.
And you were like, don't say that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And then I said it again. You're like, wait, don't do that. And I was like, well, why? What's the importance of that? And you're like, well, what you're doing is you're kind of coming across as a bit of a dick. You're just bossing everyone around.
Yep.
And for some, they might not be aware of it, and they carry on and they do what you ask them to do. But others will pick up on that, And then as time goes on, people will start to notice that you've lost. People are beginning to disengage from what you're saying, and so instead of saying "I want you to," you just simply give them a clear, concise instruction, right?
Yes.
Everybody, please stand up.
Correct.
And it's like, and after a little while, it becomes second nature, and then what you're doing is you're winning hearts and minds. And you've just mentioned also a moment ago around, okay, we are here to do done. We're going to get the information and the answers from the audience. And I know from some of the techniques you taught me that you're actually getting a lot of that information within the first few minutes of the talk, right?
Yep.
So powerful.
Yes.
So powerful. Very cunning.
It is, and cunning is good, right?
Yeah.
So in essence, as trainers, as speakers, we are there to manipulate people's emotions. And there are skills and tools to do that. But the thing being is manipulation is, the concept of it is to take something from its original form and mould it into something that is better for itself.
Yes.
So not the nasty manipulation, but the concept being is that if there is a value for people, like a real value to take away, and they have a mindset that is here, that is not beneficial to them, themselves, the other people in the room, and to you, then yes, we will use all the tools and skills we can to take that mindset and attitude and change it to something that is beneficial for them, for everyone else in the room, and for us as well. Yeah. And so we can do that en masse, right? Through how we do what we do. And it is the skills that we do.
Cool. That's so good. We're gonna come back and pick on this a little bit more because I'm so excited to talk to you about some of the stuff that you're doing these days. I'm just thinking back. I wasn't going to mention it, but I think I am. It was a bit of, for me, it was a bit of a horror show, right? So fresh from the training that I'd done with you, I attended one of the larger health and safety conferences for the year. And one of the guest speakers had been flown in and everyone was very excited to hear from. Within the first 5 to 10 minutes of his talk, I want you to. And so I was like, oh, straight away. But he was doing a talk on psychosocial health, so mental health. And he asked the audience to stay standing if you had ever said to your employer that you suffered from mental health issues. I was like, oh, this is an interesting road to be going down. And so I stayed standing up. A lot of people sat down pretty quickly. I was like, I don't think you've got the tone of this right. And he kept on pushing, stay standing up if, stay standing up if. And I suddenly realized what he was doing. And I was like, I actually was really angry to the point where I just basically wanted to tell him to get and to leave. And so by the end of his questioning, there was about 2 or 3 people brave enough to still be standing. And I looked at the other 2, and they too were kind of like really quite shocked how this had gone. And at the end of the presentation, lots of applause. Everyone was like, oh, what a wonderful presentation that was. And I was just like, is it just me? Like, has Michael Philpott made me now aware of what good and what bad looks like? And I think in a way, it's kind of true. Like, I've done that training with you, and it really opened my eyes to what great presentations now require, and why I guess the likes of TEDx and things like that have been so successful is because it's just at that standard that's so much more.
Yeah, it's world class, right?
Yeah.
Just on that note, what was he doing? What was he doing? What do you feel he was doing? Because for context,
sure.
What was he doing, and what was the negative impact outcome?
I was left to feel that he had done that in order to promote his own authority, or to position himself as the expert in the room. That's how I felt, at the expense of everyone else in that room.
And it's about mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
So there would have been other ways to get an outcome, right?
Yeah.
So because it's all about outcome. People want outcome, and they take the shortest route to get outcome, and oftentimes at the expense of the people. So to clarify that I want you to, so if someone is saying that, right, the key response is it's all about you, right? So it's used as a filler for people. You know? So, you mentioned before, shortcut to it is it's a direction or it's an instruction. Everyone stand up. Short, succinct, and easy to follow. We use fillers when we are uncomfortable with asking people directly to do something. So we go, I want you to stand up. I want you to find a partner. I want you to reach and shake hands. I want you to then, right? And it's like the repetition of hearing it for the audience at a deep level is it's all about what you want. And within I want you to, there is no choice. And with adults, when we remove choice, we make them children. And when we make adults children, it essentially says, because I said so. Why do we have to do this? Because I said so. Now, adults respond generally negatively when they are reduced to children, especially, when we talk about health and safety, right? A lot of the health and safety work will be within commercial industry, around construction. So a lot of the people within those industries will have had a negative experience with education and school. In the classroom, they would have probably been the kids that got a bit of slack from the teachers. So when it comes to authority, when they're presented with someone who is trying to gain authority through their behaviour of I want you to, or control of a room, it triggers that emotion in adults, and they will regress to a child who will put up barriers, and you won't get much further than that.
Thanks for sharing that. That I know for the audience is going to be extremely beneficial, because often I hear it all the time is I don't know how to engage with the intended audience. No matter how many policies we write, or no matter how many workshops or training sessions we do, no one seems to take on board what it is we're trying to get across the line, right?
Well, take on board would be the key, right? So to take on board would be to suggest that they don't already know the answer. For a start. Of course they know the answer. Instead of take on board, how about bring back to the forefront of someone's mind what they already know. And if they don't know it, someone in the room will.
Yep.
And what it's called is it's recognition of prior learning, right? So when we acknowledge that we are not the authority in the room, we let go of control. We then make the audience conversational. And a lot of the problems that we have as a speaker or presenter is it's often me to them, me to them, and then at a certain level, it'll be them to me. But what we lack is them to them. And when we want to build rapport with a group, the first thing we have to do, as you now know and have known for a long time, is we make it about them interacting with each other, and then it becomes a cohesive group of sharing, as opposed to I have control, I have the information, you will sit and you will take it on board, as opposed to you already know this stuff. Let's get into it. What have you got? Bring it back. Have a conversation with each other. Safety, right? So it's health and safety. One of the biggest, if we get really down to it, one of the biggest issues we see with facilitators, presenters and speakers is that they speak on safety and they have no concept of psychological safety for an audience at all.
So good. So good. And interestingly, I actually saw a poll on this morning within one of the health and safety groups on LinkedIn, where they were asking around whether, as a health and safety professional, do you feel that you have adequate resource, training, support in the psychosocial side of things? As the years have gone on, we just seem to have had more and more things tacked onto our responsibilities. And looking at the poll results, which are still early days, but it was looking very much like people felt like they were under-resourced and didn't have enough knowledge or support in that space. What you're talking about, and this is kind of a point I was thinking on when you were just speaking a moment ago, and I'll come to it, is that a lot of people lack perhaps the understanding of what it is to create a safe space, and also may not necessarily appreciate how much vulnerability that actually requires. You have to just put your ego to the side, and so rather than, okay, I've got to memorize all this stuff about safety and regurgitate it and expect everyone to understand it, it's, okay, we're in this situation together. Let's actually just work this out. You know,
let's learn together. See, that there is the vulnerability. Let's learn together. That reduces barriers straight away.
Love it. Because there's also, and I speak to some of my peers about this quite a lot, around this thing called Safety 2 and Safety 1, and we've got to do these really cool, funky workshops, HOP and other technical jargon that's being thrown around. It's making it all very sexy. And I'm just sitting there going, isn't this just health and safety? Like, isn't this just having a conversation in a way that facilitates really good outcomes? Shouldn't we just be going to learn how to be good workshop facilitators?
That would be helpful.
Hence why I spoke to you in the first place, because that's what I realized was that I'm good at writing policies, and I kind of roughly can tell you the Health and Safety at Work Act word verbatim these days, but that's not useful to anyone.
It's so good. I think for, because people want tools, right? So what can we do about it? First and foremost, self-fulfilling prophecies. I don't know if I've ever spoken about these before. But imagine that you walk into a room. Let's take health and safety and put it aside for a second, and we'll think of another subject that everyone can ponder on. So we'll go leadership. There we go.
Great.
So I walk into a room full of leaders. You walk into a room full of leaders, and I am intimidated as a facilitator trainer. Cool. So I then go, and they are leaders, and they're going, and you see it, right? You walk into the room, that happens, you get this terrible intro from someone, Matt's here to tell you all about leadership to make you better leaders, which, means that you're not good leaders right now. Nice frame, you rock in, you go, you see their response, it makes you anxious, you then go authority, and their arms tighten a bit more, and the self-fulfilling prophecy starts to occur that you read into them that they are resistant learners, and you push more authority, and you start to pick people out, like, you tell me about it at a time when, and they're like, oh, sorry, and they're now shrinking and scared of you because you've demonstrated your power, and now no one will ever challenge you. And the next time you go into a room, now you're prepared. Now you know what to do. Overpower everyone, dominate them. The self-fulfilling prophecy is that going into a room, and it's like, why do I always have resistant learners? Look in the mirror.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to that putting the ego to the side, being prepared to develop emotional intelligence, which is always been deemed as a nice to have, but actually in this day and age, it's an essential skill to have. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, because that was something I wanted to touch on, because for a lot of the audience, they'll be either in or moving into that leadership role, and so again, it's kind of something that we don't necessarily hear much about, or even really trained in actually how to be a successful leader. We're just left to assume or to think back to past experiences, schools, parents, which, let's face it, has been a disaster. And so it's how do we break down that mold? And you're totally right. It's being brave enough to recognize that there is the knowledge and the answers are sitting in the room.
That's the first step, right? Is just let go of that sense of control, because with humans you don't have control. Right. And then do things differently. So the way that you know, right from the outset of how you open a workshop, all of that type of stuff, you have control over all of that. The way you do it is different, will be different.
So powerful.
It is powerful, right? But it's when you first learnt it, it's challenging, because it's like, I don't know how this is going to go, right? And you're a little bit nervous about it, but it's like, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. So there needs to be a change, and it would be incremental little things. What's something little and different that I can do? But we went through that period where we had activity-based learning, and all of a sudden everyone needed a cush ball, and no one knew how to use it. But there was a cush ball.
Or even why, in a way.
And it's the concepts of putting stuff in place. We need to do interactive learning. And it's like, but if you don't know why and how, and you can't explain it to them, then it's back to because I said. It's like, So let's jump onto something. Let's go into the hopeful side of this conversation.
No,
hope. Where's the hope within this?
I love it. And I really appreciate the fact that you're teasing what we do in these workshops without giving away too much of the secret sauce, because it's so much fun. Initially I was quaking in my boots when I tried it for the first time in a live workshop environment. I've since taken it to conferences. I've done it in all shapes and sizes of audiences, and it works without fail every time. To a point, like to a minimum size. Like I've realised a group of 3 or 4, it's probably a little bit painful.
It's weird. It's just weird. Let's say it's weird. Reach in, shake hands. Say hi. First question.
Start playing some music. Dance comes out. It gets very messy. This is so good. So, what we've kind of covered so far is like breaking down the traditional model of suddenly find yourself in a leadership role and you've been asked to deliver this presentation, the importance of getting the frame correct from the get-go. So speaking to whomever has invited you in to do this and making sure that they introduce you correctly. Some of the stuff that we did in the workshop training was around actually the arrangement of the environment, something I'd never considered about. The importance of making sure that you're getting a healthy mix of the different demographics within the room.
So don't sit all the authority heads at the next to each other, because it creates a split dynamic in the room. Muddle each other in, force them to do it. This is where you do have control, but you do it subtly by saying everyone stand up. So if you end up with a cluster down the end, it would be weird for you to go, you guys move, unless you've got confidence to do it and you do it in a good way. But if you don't, then it would be everyone stand up. Fantastic. Find a new chair, because this is all about learning from people you don't know. I just want to split you up. Why? Because I don't want the figurehead power heads controlling the room, for one, and I also don't want them to, there is no learning there, there's no sharing, right? By staggering the room, you share that, and it spreads the authority through the room as well.
Yes, so good. And that was a big lesson learned when we did the sessions together. Michael, third person. Michael asked me to reflect on a recent workshop session that I'd done, which was a big flop, and I couldn't understand why. And so we talked about the sitting arrangements, and then your face just fell. You're just like, "Oh, Matt, what have you done?" I'm like, "What? Like, I don't understand." Showed you some footage of the session. It was about an hour's worth of footage. You watched the first 60 seconds, and you're just like, "Okay, that's enough. I don't need to see anymore."
I got it.
It was like power dynamics in that session was nuts, because it was exactly that. I had all of the leaders in one corner of the room. And so all the focus and attention was going there. And so I couldn't understand why I'd lost 2/3 of the room within the first 5 minutes. And that was one of the key reasons. So thank you for sharing that. Wicked. And I guess this kind of quite neatly leads us through to some of the awesome stuff that you're doing at the moment. Because, you know, like many of us, I follow you on LinkedIn. I can see your story. I can see your journey. It looks like you've been phenomenally successful and busy with your latest big product, right? So the art of epic communication. Attention project management and construction business owners and health and safety professionals. Are you seeking expert guidance to streamline your health and safety processes? Look no further than Advanced Safety, New Zealand's leading health and safety consultancy. Our team specializes in comprehensive capability assessments, tailored systems, exceptional training, and ongoing support. We're here to simplify your journey, ensuring you achieve demonstrable legal compliance efficiently. And here's the best part. With Advanced Safety, you're guaranteed results. We commit to achieving compliance within 180 days or less, providing you with peace of mind and saving you valuable time and resources. Say farewell to intricate procedures and welcome simplicity. Our experts excel at simplifying health and safety, empowering you to focus on your core business operations. To explore our franchise opportunities for health and safety professionals and our comprehensive suite of solutions for construction and project management companies, visit advancedsafety.co.nz today. Advanced Safety, simplifying health and safety for New Zealand businesses.
Let me do a plug here.
Oh yeah, please do.
Go.
Oh, a book. Look, everybody.
The Art of Epic Communication workbook. Look at that.
It's very pretty.
Oh, it is very pretty, and it's in Lunar colour.
Yeah.
Because originally it was because this is influence, right? So originally it was like a regal black with gold.
Yep.
But the background on it was like slate, and it's like, is slate, when you touch it, is it warm or cold?
Ooh, love it. So you're kind of thinking through all the details, right?
Well, of course, right? It's like it's cold and distant and not engaging. So just really looking at best practice, even for what we do, making sure that we are also doing things that are helpful for people.
Yes. So not resting on your laurels, right? It's so important.
Yeah.
So you may be successful today, but that doesn't guarantee success tomorrow.
Oh, mate, we're always learning, right? Like I'm learning. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I'm still learning. Yeah. Every dynamic I work in, whenever I introduce new content or new information, it's always a trial, right? But with the concept in the background that I will be happy to switch out something and try something different, because it's what's best for them.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The art
Tell
of
me
epic
more.
communication.
Yeah,
It's epic.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
No, it's
as
very
it
epic.
said so in the name. So you last week you looked like 2 sessions back to back. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty massive.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about it. What is this?
What
this
is it?
thing? Yes.
So I quit, right? Like I quit running training workshops when I went specifically into speaker coaching.
Yes.
And at the end of that time, at the end of a year of me just coaching one-on-one with people, which is fantastic, lots of fun and stuff like that, I felt really sad.
Yeah.
And basically it just came about that it's like, the truth is I like being on stage as much as I like being in the background helping
Yep.
people on stage. So I'd been crafting a little bit of content in the background, pulling stuff together, and it was actually after COVID and all of that stuff, it was PwC that reached out and said, hey Michael, when did you help? You know, we've got some of our facilitator trainers who have been online for a couple of years, and they've just got too relaxed in that environment. Can you just come in and just show them what magic looks and feels and sounds like again, to re-inspire them for getting, you know, back into that face-to-face stuff, and then of course they can transfer that back into their online stuff, because people are going to be doing both, right? It was like, cool. So we did that, and it was great. It was fantastic. They loved it. It was a fully intensive day. Recording to camera within the first 15 minutes of the workshop opening, which mind-blowing.
So for many, I'm sure that would be quite a challenge.
It's intense.
The first few minutes.
All testament to how much you can set up a safe environment with adults and what you can achieve. Because I mean, the day runs like that. It's me being super vulnerable with them as well, and bringing all of my skills to the table, enabling them to be super vulnerable throughout the day. And their learning and growth comes through their vulnerability, and we start super low level of entry, that it's done in a way where I get them to write a script without realizing they're writing a script almost. And then it's kind of like, well done, you've just achieved. And they're like, what, we just achieved? And it's like, yeah. Jump up, find a partner, go grab a ring light and record it. And they're like, do we just read it from here? I'm like, just read it, no pressure, no nothing. We get to the end of the day, very end of the day, and they review their first and their last ever video. And it's like, just have a look, is there a difference? And they're like, wow. And it's like that growth, but it was progressive, right? It's like step learning. All the way along. What they learn here reinforces what they're going to learn here, which reinforces, and then it just loops all the way around.
So good.
I am quite proud of it.
Yeah, that's so clever. I mean, again, like the psychology behind that is phenomenal, right? So I mean, I'm just thinking, because I've been doing a lot of learning, self-directed learning in sales and marketing. I've been going really deep in with Alex H. Should we call him?
Alex H.
People will be watching this.
You'll have to put it in. Yeah. Who is it?
So he wrote the $100 million Offer. It's a fabulous book. So for anyone in business who's struggling to sell stuff, check it out. Because that in a nutshell, it kind of goes hand in hand. It's that whole the feedback, or the importance of that loop of continually just going back to say, okay, well, from here we're now going to do this, and then at the end of the day, look how far you've come. So by the end of it, I'm sure the feedback must be quite phenomenal from your participants, right?
Life-changing. And it's supposed to be. It was designed to be life-changing. Each person comes in, so each individual's growth will be subject to them and their level. So the day is about them. That's right. It's like you might see this much personal growth, but compared to where you were, it's this. And someone else will see this much personal growth, but compared to where they were, it's this. So each person takes their own level. But yeah, the feedback on it is life-changing. Life-changing. Because, and the thing being is, for a lot of us, we lack introspection, right? How often do we look at ourselves from a very much external, outside perspective? And how many people have created videos and then re-watched the whole thing comfortably, right? The first tackle is, if you don't like the sound of your own voice, there's a couple of reasons. One is because you've never heard it like that before. The sound of your voice inside your head goes through your bone structure, so it literally sounds different to you. So when you hear it for the first time on camera, it's like, I don't sound like that. And it's like, you do. To the world outside of your head, that's what you sound like. Best you get comfortable with it, because it's yours, right? It's like, and it's really taking ownership of everything that makes up you and who you are as a whole person. And there is the life-changing part for people, is being able to see themselves from a perspective stepped outside of themselves they've never really done before.
That's really interesting, because this is a common theme that keeps coming back in many interviews that I've done over the years, is it's kind of the psychology, right? You just can't get past that.
Yep.
It's kind of what are your known or unknown blocks when it comes to your own professional development and winning those things that you're trying to achieve, which may in this instance be winning the hearts and minds of the audience.
100%. Yeah.
So
if you want to win the hearts, minds, and wallets of any audience on any stage, then there is a lot of digging into yourself that you'll need to do, and find your own insecurities, your own fears, and then pull them out into the open and be like, what is the worst thing that can happen here? I wouldn't digress on that too long, but as in, if I let go of that control and just show up 100% authentically as myself with compassion for them, don't make it about me at all. It's not about me. I am, and this is the approach for people, right? I am merely a conduit. That is my job, is to, how can I take information that is needed and necessary and sometimes cumbersome. It can be quite cumbersome content. And how do I just get it and mold it into a way that is for them, right? So there are some scary stats out there for a start for people. So disengagement in the workplace, right? So 86% of 79% of employees are disengaged. 86% of all workplace issues stem from collaboration and communication issues. 86%. And then you've got the disengagement, which makes sense. It's like, okay, so we've got a communication problem. I'm now disengaged. Top it off with, why are people not getting the message clearly? Well, it's because the average reading and comprehension age in New Zealand is 12 to 14 years old.
Is that right?
12 to 14.
Right. Okay.
So think about it. When you take your documentation, you know it almost word for word now, right? You take it, how it's written. Is it written in simple language?
Nope.
Not quite yet, right? But there are laws coming in that said it needs to be created in that way. You process it in your brain, and then you're like, you've got to know all of this stuff. And it's like, but it's really high level stuff. And the reading comprehension age is 12 to 14. So when you're translating that information, you are literally going, how can I dumb this down and then get them to engage with content at that level, so that they don't take it on board, but they understand it, like embody it.
So again, this is like the importance of knowing your intended audience, right?
I think to a degree, like, because this is where we get into my passion piece, which is ADHD, right? So I've got ADHD, 45 years old, diagnosed with ADHD, left school at 14. So I was definitely within that bracket, right? And it's like, learning was really tricky for me when I was younger. The audience, if you can make all communication neuro-inclusive, so it means that every person in the audience can understand, whether it's through the images that you use, the slides, the visuals that help, not hinder, that align directly to your communication, not word for word, but image-based, right? What is the most simplest image that will help people who are image-based learning? And then the audio and every aspect of it, you're trying to cater to everyone. That way you don't have to be selective of how you communicate with an audience. You just make that content for everyone. And the area at a one-on-one level with coaching for me is like, if I'm coaching a rocket scientist, right? I'll say, can you dumb it down? And they're like, I did. I'm like, more. Because, for them, it's like, I did dumb it down. It's like, yeah, I know you did. You dumbed it down from your knowledge level. And it's really hard for people who are specialists because they feel almost like they're ripping people off. And it's like, you're not. If you're ripping them off, if you don't take your content and make it simple to understand, that's where you're actually robbing them. For academics, a lot of the work I'll do is just putting in a key phrase, right? Like, okay, so here's the technical term. In other words, here's the other term. All of the academic ego is like, I feel good. Good. The academics in the room go, nice, Bob. Well done, Bob. Jane, well done. So that's satiated, that's good. And then the rest of the audience go, hey, I understand that. I get it too. You included all of us.
Yeah.
I like you. I'll listen to you. I'll trust you.
Yeah.
So there's a thing, right, which I have is, to win the hearts, minds, and wallets. If you can't do those things, because you want open hearts, open minds, open wallets. If you don't do those things, closed minds, closed hearts, and closed wallets.
Yeah, because you lose both ends of the audience. You've got the academics versus those that are actually like generalists.
Yeah.
I often, over the years, I've come across people who hide behind the terminology and the jargon. And when pressed to explain it in layman terms, they fall apart. They just find other terms to hide behind. And it's gosh, like there was a real skill in being able to break something that is deemed technical into just simple 2 or 3 bullet point note.
Yeah.
It's so important. And again, I think often not valued enough. Or perhaps the people behind those terminologies may not necessarily know their content well enough.
Which is why, so it's imposter syndrome, right? Which is why people push authority. Don't challenge me because I'm a little bit worried if you challenge me. Whereas that's not beneficial to anyone.
Yep, so again, it's just leaving the ego at the door. Recognizing your knowledge gaps and perhaps going back and doing some studies on it, right?
Yeah, or just being vulnerable enough to say, I don't know, does anyone else know? Hey!
Yeah.
Because that warms an audience, right?
Sure does.
I don't know, does anyone know?
Yeah.
Someone, get your phone out, look it up.
Yep.
It's like, and the audience is like, I like you.
Yeah, I haven't used it for a while, but I used to open talks, particularly Toolbox talks, with something along the lines of, I'm not the expert, I'm not pretending to know everything.
Yeah.
But within this room, I suspect we'll find the answers.
Beautiful.
It just kind of just calms the fun a little bit because everyone's like, oh gosh, here we go. So
and it takes pressure off you.
Oh, totally.
And when the pressure's off you, you can just be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, so it's taking a step back from being, I need to be in leader role and with the leader hat on and what we consider to be a leader, and actually being more of a facilitator, right?
Yep. So, and there are, yes, that's when it does get different, right? So there is facilitation, and then there is inspirational, aspirational, and they are different things. What doesn't change is it's always about the audience.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to pick on that then. So can you tell me or differentiate between aspirational leader and facilitator?
Yeah. So if I'm facilitating, right, then it is. It'll still be connected to aspirational, but the messaging will be slightly different.
Okay.
Yeah. So the messaging will be around, yes, there is a collective intelligence in the room that we're going to draw from. Now, I might have back and forth opportunity there, whereas if I'm doing aspirational, inspirational leadership, it might be that I'm creating a video. And I don't have the opportunity for back and forth or to facilitate a process.
Yep.
My message is going out to the masses, and it's to inspire, encourage, and get those people to want to come along on a journey with me. So my messaging would be, or someone I'm coaching, their messaging will be quite different. It'll be less. It's still us. It's very much, but the messaging would be in setting of really high goals, like these are our goals, this is where we want to be, this is how we're going to get it, this is where you contribute, and this is what we are doing as a group, and this is, with all of us working together, we can get here, and that starts today with you, every single one of you, play a part. Yeah.
So good, I'm in.
Yeah.
It's the hero's journey, right?
Hero's journey,
yeah,
sure.
It's so good. I'm just thinking back to some of the content in your amazing Art of Epic workshops as well. There's very much that story. It's like, what is the current pain point? What are the current hurdles? What do we need to do to overcome those? What does Nirvana look like? What's the outcome? Yeah,
well, that's the thing, right? It's like, what are we working for? What are we heading towards? What has this health and safety actually got to do? If we bring it back to health and safety, what is the bigger picture of this?
Yeah.
One of my, I'll put a mention in for him, because I think have you spoken to Troy?
Troy.
So electrocuted 110,000 volts.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. I haven't had a chance. We had like a bit of a back and forth, but I just haven't stopped to reach out properly.
When you get a chance, have a chat with him, because he is on the journey of speaking, right? So he's been asked to come into Fulton Hogan.
Oh, good.
Originally is where it began, and they asked him to come in, and it was like, can you just share your story? And he came to me, and we were talking about, as a non-speaker at all, right? And it's 11 years since this thing happened, and he was like, I think it's time. I want to share the story. But there was the lack of experience and skill. So we worked on it, and it was like because this is very much aspirational, inspirational. It's not facilitation. He's not back and forthing with the audience at this stage, because that's another level. So the messaging with it, with Troy, is around digging deeper past people's like work, right? It's like work, yes, but where does it stem from? So his talk is more so, how is it that, particularly with men, we lack self-care? Like, where did we learn that? Well, and he's like, growing up, I remember my family, right? When it came to looking after yourself, that's who you look to, the people who are most close to you, and how they treat their own safety, their own comfort even, like do they burn the candle at both ends? And you see it, and you're like, that is your hero that you look to, so that when you're put into a situation in health and safety, it's like, because you grow up with it. So he's tying his talk back more so now to self-care starts in the home, and then the message, for the aspirational message that is left behind, is the behaviours and actions you have today are going to be mirrored by your children. How you behave, would you want your child to do what you do, and to think about it the way you do? Which is powerful, right? It takes
challenging,
very challenging, but that's the reality, is that those behaviours are being seen by other people, and we have a choice over that, and that is aspirational, because it takes it from just what we're talking about to something a lot more individually connected and deeper. What was really interesting was talking to him about when he delivered his first talk, and laughing at the same time as talking about it. And he got up on stage, and there's a folder that I often give to a speaker, or recommend to a speaker, that they can use. It looks like a leather-bound book, and they roll up on stage, and it looks nice, and they open it, and it's got all their notes in it. And they have dedicated to using notes. It's not half and half. It's, I'm using notes. That's cool. And I said to him, so how did it go? And he was like, yeah, it was all right. I was freaking out. I was like, so what were the audience doing? He was like, I have no idea. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I didn't look at them at all. I said, at all? He was like, okay, I looked up once. I was like, and? He was like, they were all crying. I'm like, what? He was like, 300 hardened people in a room were crying. He said when he looked up, he saw that, and it made him even more like, but that was the impact of this story. And you want to win hearts, minds, wallets, you just got it. Because if you see that significant shift in physiology in your audience, something has resonated there, And that is the power and impact of what we do. Whether it's in a facilitated classroom or it's on a stage, we have that capability. But for him, it was massive vulnerability to be able to go there and share it, and then to share it in such a way that it strikes me as quite powerful learning for myself, is that a lot of the stuff I do is around stage presence, right? Like you've got to have it all aligned, but every now and then there are these messages that you don't even need to look at the audience. You just read it and be scared and be vulnerable, and it doesn't matter. It's just so powerful, that authentic feeling of that the room just can't help but go, and it throws out a lot of the stuff, the stuff I'm bringing adds, but some talks don't need it. It's just so compassionate.
Yes, yeah, it sounds like it's kind of just a significant dose of authenticity, right?
Yeah.
With a compelling story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, like it's inevitable that Troy and our paths will cross.
Yeah.
I'd love to think that there will be an opportunity for him to walk the stages. I might be able to help facilitate that in the foreseeable. So watching this space.
Yeah.
Which swings us around quite neatly to the last couple of questions I've got for you, Michael.
Yes.
I'm aware of your time.
Yeah, let's hit them.
Sorry, I'm kind of getting as much out of you as I possibly can.
That's the thing, you can talk about this all day.
Oh,
so.
it's fascinating. And it, like I said, like it just touches on so many different facets. A lot of stuff you wouldn't actually automatically assume. I'm totally fascinated by the emotional intelligence, the psychology, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that allows us to communicate to our best capabilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, always keen to kind of pick your brains on that front. We've kind of alluded to conferences.
Yep.
And the facilitator and to the person who is there to try and deliver a message that encourages others to take action. Mm-hmm. And there clearly there's kind of two different roles going on there. So within that workshop environment, you're there to try and inspire action then and there. Mm-hmm. On stage, I guess you're trying to win attention, and then with the hope and aim for people to then walk away at the end to take some action.
Yep.
So we've talked about this offline since we've known each other, really, around our general thoughts around the quality of conferences in NZ. I know the last time we caught up, we were both pretty negative on that front. A few years have passed, a few challenges, obviously COVID and moving on online, and now there's been a big swell back into getting into the conference halls. What is your opinions of the current state of conferences here in New Zealand?
Well, the first part would be to declare that I don't go to conferences. Yeah. For that exact reason.
Yep.
Yeah. The quality is still lower than what it could be.
Yep.
If we're all learning, growing, and developing, then of course we can always get better.
Yep.
I think there are things that prevent people from getting better. One is the inherent fear that everyone has of speaking. So an audience naturally goes, well done, because it wasn't me. Like it wasn't me doing it, so well done for even getting up there. We don't know how to measure good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of speakers get given feedback from an audience through feedback forms, and the feedback forms are not clear. It's like, give me a feedback form, I'll create one for a conference for you, just to see how it goes as a test run. I'll put questions in it that will make the audience be very specific about what they're measuring on. Was it interesting? Tick.
Yeah.
It was more interesting than something else.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like we don't have decent measurement systems in place. A lot of speakers in New Zealand are speaking for free.
Yep.
Which is problematic in itself.
It's really common.
Very common. So, super common. I've been asked many times, can you come and speak at our thing? It's like, sweet, this is how much I charge. It's like, it'd be really good for your exposure. It's like, really? Seriously? I think we're past that.
Yeah, I'd like to think so,
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's like, you want me to come and speak on a stage to 300 people? Cool. I can put one post out and it reaches thousands.
Yes.
It took me a few minutes, and I can keep doing that all day. So the exposure card's kind of an old card nowadays.
That's a really good point, because at least in a social post you can put a call to action at the end, whereas when you're on stage you're basically asked not to.
Well, here's the thing: if you're speaking for free, don't speak for free for a start.
Yes.
Yeah, it's never free. You are doing a call to action. You are marketing and promoting yourself. Get photos at least. Get testimonials from the event organisers, but invest in your own speaking.
Yes.
For all of you out there who are conference speakers or facilitator trainers, here's an insight for you. For the measurement standard, because no one knows it, right? Like the measurement standard. How long should I practice for and prepare for my talk?
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
So for every 1 minute of speaking that you're asked to do, so let's say that you're asked to speak for 10 minutes at a conference, big conference, 1,100 people, 10 minutes, great, cool opportunity. For every minute, there is an hour minimum of preparation. So, and that's for your script development, word for word writing. Oh, but I only like to do bullet points. Try speaking with just bullet points and actually getting to your point. It's very hard. Try being coached with just bullet points. It never works.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I'll say, that was amazing. Say it again. It's like, what? It's like, the gold you just said. It's like, no, I can't remember. So an hour for every minute of content, and that's just around your design of your PowerPoints if you're going to use them and your scripting, and then for every minute there is 45 minutes of presentation practice. Welcome everyone, it's so great to see you all. There are 3 key things we're going to learn today, but first, practicing these movements and gestures, not just reading your script and doing it out loud and doing it big. 45 minutes. So for a 10-minute talk, 17 and a half hours minimum preparation.
Yeah. That's going to blow most people's minds, right? Because
it usually does.
Yeah, because for the majority of people, it's like, I'll just throw some slides together, might even tweak them hours before I go on stage. I'm actually a little bit guilty of doing that occasionally too, right? But but I'm awesome. No, I guess I feel that, and I know you'll correct me, is that I'm confident in the content that I'm speaking to.
Yeah. If you know your content, right, you've been speaking a bit, especially as a facilitator trainer, you will have pockets of content that you are constantly doing. And when you're asked to speak, you'll go, cool, I want that piece, that piece, that piece, but you know it.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not kind of guessing it as you go along, like, oh, I hope this goes right. You've said it 1,000 times already. Now you're just compiling them, and then you'll just go, cool, I know this, I know this. The area of work will be transitions. How do I get from this piece of content to this piece in a smooth way that builds the steps? Because if you don't have the transitions to jump to the next one, it's like you'll use a term like, well, that's a nice segue. It's like, no, it's not. It's not at all. It's terrible and clunky. Their brain is like, ah.
Yes.
So 1 minute for every, 1 hour for every minute.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, you're asking the speaker to sit back and watch video replay and to listen to their voice. It's having to be vulnerable in order to deliver the best product or the best outcome, right?
Yep. And it gets the best results. The more vulnerable the speaker can be, the more time and energy they can invest, the better results they get, which then is a self-fulfilling prophecy. That my audience is actually really receptive and they loved it and they came up to me afterwards and it generated work. Wow, because I put energy, effort and respect into the fact that they paid for a ticket to be there, but also every single one of them is an hourly rate of their time.
Yes.
Ticket price and their time. That requires a lot of respect.
Yeah, I love it. So what you're suggesting, and I completely concur, I haven't been to a conference for a number of years for the same reasons really, is that in a way, intentionally or otherwise, the industry is kind of rigged in a way.
A little bit.
Yeah, because the feedback forms are skewed in a way that it's basically going to support no matter what happens. As a nation, regardless of industry, we've all become used to what a presentation looks like. Generally a ton of words on the screen, word verbatim talk. Someone who's nervous looking down, occasionally they might look across the audience if you're lucky. There's no engagement. And then they're out. And it's the polite applause and what's for lunch. And I kind of gave up on it because I personally wasn't getting anything from it. And one of the key reasons was for that was you really opened my eyes through our training. Like, I keep going back to it. It sounds like we did like months of work, extensive training, but it was actually like a few sessions over a few weeks. But it stuck with me because it lifted the veil to show actually there's another way of doing this, and it ruined conferences for me.
But I think that's the thing. You've hit the nail on the head. There is a different way of doing this, right? And if you've just been getting by, you get up on stage, you do your thing. You get that on a piece of paper. It says, then why would you change? So I would put it back to the event hosts and organisers, conferences. It's like watch some good talks. Audiences expect more from your speakers, and you can see the good ones. There are some really good ones popping forward. I know. Someone I haven't actually coached, but they got some feedback from someone in the audience. They've been presenting on stages for years, and I was talking to them and like, I started working on my stagecraft. And I was like, stagecraft? And he was like, well, yeah, the way I move and stuff. And instantly I had really amazing feedback from the audience, and I didn't realise how much of an impact it would have. But just that growth, right? Their own growth of what more can I do? But it comes down to the event conference organisers, no different from the MC that you talk to. The conference organisers feel a bit weird. You know, it's like, come and speak for free.
Yeah.
But how do I then get you to show me that you can do it?
Yeah.
Because, well, it's not quid pro quo.
Yeah.
If I'm paying you, I have an expectation level that you will be here. And I still want to kind of see, like, you know, the TED, for example, TEDx, we want to see their talks as they progress.
Yeah.
And, you know, before they get on the final stage, it's like, it's done and it's rehearsed and it's practiced to the word because we respect our audience.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You've just reminded me. I'm a big fan of Mind Valley.
Yeah.
I was a paid up member for a while there. The membership slipped, but one of the things that the founder, a chap called Vishen, one of the things that he ensures and is really strict on is that he won't allow anyone on any of his stages until he deems them as ready.
Yep.
Because he's valuing his audience, he's valuing his membership, and he's also valuing the speakers as well, because he's not setting them up for a fail. Yeah. Because I've seen that happen too.
That happens way too often.
Yeah, it's really bad. Really
so
bad.
I'll give another quick little tip, and then we do have to wrap
cool.
up.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
Because I've got a meeting. So a tip, because this is the thing, right? It's like knowing what to do and how to do it. So, and I mean, I could go nuts with this, but I'll just give it this one. A lot of people I know who do speak out of the goodness of their heart. The worst thing that happens to them is someone will come to them from a conference and go, hey, you know, and they're friends, and it's like, can you come and speak at our event for like, you know, just for like half an hour about leadership? Thank you. It's like, okay, first and foremost, go back to that person and go, leadership is a massive subject. And you want me to do it for free for a start, and then you want me to go and figure out what leadership means to you. Don't do that to me. We're friends, and I'm helping you out. So the question is, by the end of my talk, what do you want them to be able to do? Specific. Oh, well, I hadn't thought about that. It's like, I know, that's why you put it on me to figure that out for you.
Yes.
All right? So what do you want them to be able to do is a key, and then what are 3 key takeaways from my 30 minutes, just 3, that you want them to learn? What is the, you know the audience, I don't. What are the 3 key takeaways around leadership that you think would be best for them? Great. You come back and tell me. Now the box for the speaker gets very small and very easy for them to go, otherwise the speaker themselves is like, oh, and then they get up on stage and they do this thing, and of course it's last minute because it's hard, and they deliver something and it doesn't hit because it never was going to. Totally. So both parties are kind of working against each other a little bit. Help each other out, hold the expectation level a lot higher, pay people. That's a thing. Don't speak for free. It's never for free. There's always something in exchange, and it's not lunch. Your flights should be paid for. Your accommodation, you shouldn't be paying to speak on stage in New Zealand. Just as a little bit of a softener for New Zealand as well, I went to Sydney to a conference, massive conference that a client asked me to come over and coach them on site for the conference, and they were the best speaker of the entire conference of 3 days, and I saw the exact same problems at that level as I see here. So it's not just restricted to New Zealand. You get into the US and that level of expectation is a lot higher.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because it's always important to have a bit of context as to whether it's just it's a Kiwi issue or. That's so valuable, and I think that's been one of my key takeaways. One of my chief callings to my industry is around getting better at these 2 things, which is the public speaking and inspiring people to take action, and workshop facilitation, which I see fall on its face time and time again. So thank you for sharing your insights.
My pleasure.
Again, it's so
remember this, everyone. You do what you do because you care about people.
Yep.
So when you care about people, about their health and safety, because that's what you're talking about, then how are you caring for those people in the transformation or translation of that information from you to them? Because if you're not caring for them there, then the caring thing doesn't work. Yeah. And if you care, you will invest in your growth by coming on my workshop.
Yes. And on that note, how do we get in touch with Michael Philpott?
So my ADHD means that it's hard to get in touch with me. So I have Natalie, who is my EA, who basically, if you send me an email or something, Natalie will be like, hi. Through LinkedIn, you can connect with me on there. There are workshops. So all the workshops I do are generally in-house for organisations. However, my most recent relationship with the University of Canterbury, and I left school at 14, but now I'm a professor of practice, the first in my field in New Zealand.
Amazing, mate. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That means that I run 2 public workshops a year with them, and the next one is coming up in, don't quote me, October, and it can be found through the executive education website.
Cool.
Or a link that'll be put on somewhere.
That's awesome. Highly recommend it. If nothing else, follow Michael on LinkedIn because his stories are phenomenal. It's great to watch, mate. Like,
stories are going to get way more interesting very soon.
All right,
there's a lot of there's some very cool stuff that's in the pipeline for a lot of the work that I'm doing.
Awesome.
And we're definitely looking at tailoring down into change. So looking at how the communication work that I do is actually attached to change overall. And essentially discovering for myself that it's not a fear that people have, it's a lack of skill.
Cool, and we're going to circle back on that in the future because again, I agree. I think health and safety, a big component of that is the management of change. And unfortunately, as a whole, we're a bit rubbish at it because I don't think we really appreciate what it is.
Change is massive. It's huge, right? And it's a big subject right now. But again, communication is a key component of it. And how those messages of change are being very top down, filtered out through their people.
Amazing.
And yes, we do need to. Let's do this again.
Yay, awesome. Thanks so much.
No worries.